Hey to the most amazing nurses. It is Dr. V here with Morning Infusion with Dr. V podcast, where we are intentional about teaching nurses how to work from anywhere around the world, making money and owning your own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. You will hear from amazing guests that have grown their companies and want to share insight into how you can do the same to change the face of healthcare as we know it. If you want to grow your businesses and leverage your knowledge as a nurse to grow wildly successful businesses at the top, instead of working your way to the top, head on over and join our Millionaire Nurse CEO group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and get updates on our live and virtual events to help you grow your businesses. Good morning, everyone. So we have a special guest with us this morning, Miss Abbey Austin. And so before we get into the conversation, because you know it's going to be good, I would like for you to like, share, comment. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel so that we can grow the channel. Also, if you're on Apple, leave us a review, right? Leave us a review and rate us as well. Our goal is to get better. Our goal is to tell these amazing stories about these nurses who are just, they're just phenomenal. But anyway, so we're going to get into the chat. So Abbey, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi, yes. Well, thank you, Dr. V, first of all, for having me on your show. I'm really excited to not only share my story of transitioning from bedside nursing to solo entrepreneurship, but just an opportunity to maybe inspire other nurses to kind of take their dream. And it was destiny that I met you sort of in that other group out there on social media. So I'm really excited and thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you. So
about me.
What'd you say?
I said about me. I was supposed to answer your question and I didn't even answer it. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You asked about you.
Yeah. So me, yes. Who am I? What am I? Abbey Austin. I'm a mom of four, I guess, first. 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. I did not start out as nursing. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and quickly learned that I couldn't afford daycare. So I went back for my nursing degree, and that allowed me to work night shift and raise children. I did basically critical care nursing I calculated this morning, it'd be 19 years, the end of this year. Started in the ER, dabbled in the ICU, did float pool, critical care float pool, and ended my ER or hospital career in interventional radiology. But I have since transitioned and I have become a health coach, an integrative and holistic health coach for women for several reasons. The healthcare industry, as I like to call it, the sick care industry. I wanted to be able to help people before the hospital setting. And then my own health scare really led to understanding my passion and my purpose of why I wanted to do this. So I'm a mom, I'm a nurse, I'm a health coach, and I'm hoping to inspire just women to improve their health and well-being through holistic means, nutrition and movement and healthy mindset practices. So that's kind of me.
I love it. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to have 4 children. Okay. And then I had the first one. I was like, this whole pregnancy thing, this whole carrying this child in my body, it's not working out for me. I was like, we're not doing that no more. And anyway, she got to be about 2 years old. And I was like, well, she is really cute and I don't want her to be by herself. So, and I tell my son all the time, listen, I was like, you better thank your sister, okay? Because you were not going to be here. And as soon as I found out he was a boy, I was like, we're not doing that no more. That's it. That's it. But God always blesses you to be exceedingly abundantly. So as time would have it, I got remarried, and now I have three bonus children, and so instead of having the four, I had the five, and it's an amazing thing. So let's get into talking about you. And so you came out of nursing school. So first of all, you went back to school to be a nurse because of the psychology. So you never wanted to be a nurse. It wasn't a first degree type of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't I want to be a nurse. So I got my degree in psychology. It's still the desire. I remember then at the time I wanted to work with at-risk juvenile girls. And that was like my big passion, which oddly enough, I still didn't truly follow that. I started to work for a nonprofit called the ARC of Frederick County. I'm in Maryland, Frederick County being a county in Maryland. And we worked with folks with developmental disabilities and helped advocate for them in the community. And it was great. And it was very rewarding. And I loved it. But I had my second son, Lee. And that's when I quickly realized that childcare was very expensive. And what could I do? And I could easily sort of transition because I already had a 4-year degree. And I looked at the prerequisites and I was like, oh, I can easily transition and I can work in the next 2 years and go in, and have a job. But also that's the luxury, I guess, about nursing is all that flexibility. You pick your schedule, weekend alternative, whatever it is. And that's what drawn me to it. So I still was in the world of helping people, a desire to help people. And then just a little side note, they say like generations kind of pass things on. We talk about generational trauma, but there's also like generational, I don't know if healing is the right word, but my mother wanted to be a nurse and so did my aunt. And just because of the timeline that when they were growing up, they got married and stayed home. So in a weird way, I became the nurse that both of them wanted to be. And I think in some strange way, they kind of lived a little vicariously that I fulfilled a destiny that they wanted to. So I do feel that somewhere along the bloodline, it was in me all along, because I'm definitely a nurturer, a carer. I want people to feel well. I want people to feel better and feel good. And I know we're going to talk more about how I transitioned from acute nursing, hospital nursing to where I am now. But I've always just wanted to help people and make people smile and feel better, whether I was being a goofy kid trying to make them smile or, working in the hospital or something. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you started out in the ED?
I did. Yeah. So, that was 2005. So we had a nursing shortage back then.
Mm-hmm.
And they were giving sign-on bonuses. And I don't know. I think they're bringing them back, right? Aren't they bringing them back now?
Oh, yeah.
I got like a $3,000 sign-on bonus to come into the ER if I agreed to stay. And I did. And that was before I even passed NCLEX. That was like they let you work as a nurse graduate or whatever, and your preceptor had to sign off all your stuff. So, but yeah, I learned a lot very quickly.
It's funny how you said that you were in the ER and you knew that you started to see that it was sick care as opposed to healthcare. And I remember the day just as clear when I just saw that, right? I saw, here we are, we're in sick care and we're not really practicing healthcare, and we have to change the narrative, because at the end of the day, the patients are going to keep coming back if we don't really, really get on the front end of that thing, being proactive as opposed to being reactive. And it was the day that I knew that I had to transition from where we were. Now, you started in the ER, you did some float pools, some ICU and things of that nature. You went to a vascular surgeon, and you said that at that time, so during the time that you were in healthcare, you said that you were burned out. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I was the poster child, meaning like I was their girl, their nurse. I did all their committees. I signed up. I accepted the philosophy of this is healthcare and we're doing the best we can, but we don't have lunch coverage. We don't have, somebody to help buddy you up. Sorry, you got to take 5 as opposed to the 3 critical care, and I just accepted it kind of hook, line, and sinker, because in my mind, and I still do believe this, nobody's out to hurt or harm. It is just unfortunately how it has become. But I did all of the committees. I precepted the new grads. I revamped the new grad orientation in the ED. I was on the quality. I was the chair of the quality committee in the ED, and that was probably my takedown. So I was that girl, that nurse, like desperately trying to get everybody on board with the metrics, yet I was still the one in the trenches and I was doing the work. And I don't know, at some point I was just really frustrated because it was affecting my home life too. And I think a lot of people this might resonate with nurses is, I'm at work and I'm being, like I said, their poster child, poster nurse on their committees, coming in with this happy face, working without the lunch, accepting the 5th patient, doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, because that's what the good nurses do, moving, because ED is all about throughput, moving them along, emptying my room, taking a new room. Well, my home life suffered because I was grouchy and tired when I got home. And those 4 little kids, and I was a single mom for a long time. And you can't have guilt and you can't have regret. You can have lessons learned. But yeah, I would come home grouchy and tired and not as interactive as I should have been. And then I worked night shift a lot, which, we have to have night shift nurses, but because I did it so I wouldn't have daycare. So I thought I was winning because I didn't have to pay somebody, or my child didn't go to daycare, but I just lived in a fog. I know how many night shifters can that resonates with, but like I was there, but I wasn't really there. And then, as we all know about the 12-hour shifts, it's just Groundhog Day, and you get up and you go again. And on top of it, I was abusing my body because of caffeine. Woman of 4, hitting my 30s now, and this kind of leads into my change, but gaining weight, struggling with that image, and always having body image self-confidence anyway. But then, as we hit our 30s, things change and we can't eat the same way. And we should really be exercising a different way when we hit a certain point in our life. And, but 12-hour shifts, 3 nights a week, 3 days a week isn't really conducive to a healthy lifestyle for yourself. So I was literally just killing myself. And what did I do? Like so many women, I just ate less calories. And when I did find a time to work out, I did really the wrong kind of workouts, but I was on a treadmill. So I now know I was just overstressing my body. And it was like, nope, we're not losing weight. We're going to hang on to all of it. But then what else does that do? That couples that side of the fight or flight. So we're going back to like basic nursing classes here, but we all sort of forget about that. And I know for a fact I was just living in what I like to quote. It's Dr. Oh, shoot. Give me a moment. Come to me. Dr. Libby Weaver, she refers to it as rushing women syndrome. And I was like, after I read her book, I was like, oh, that is me to a T. Just rushing here, there. And you're just living on cortisol and adrenaline. And you're living in the red zone. You're living in fight or flight. And you're not over in the green, rest and digest, where you should be. And, I think a lot of nurses, especially ER nurses, especially the past couple years with everything that's been going on. And I say nurses everywhere, but that's who I identify with mostly. I think a lot that resonates with them because they give everything they have for that 12 hours, 8 hours that they're there. And we all make the joke about the pizza party. I watched the podcast about the pizza party. I watched that one. But we all make the joke about the podcast or the pizza party, right? And
It's
After a
crazy.
while, it's just not enough.
But
And
there was a moment during the time that you were in the emergency department that it was a defining moment. So kind of describe that.
yeah. So again, I was on that quality committee, and at that time we were tracking falls, we were tracking door to EKG times, door to cath lab times, uh, BNP lab draw to lab time. Those are the ones that stick out in my mind. I know there were more quality. I know I had so many things on that matrix sheet that we tracked. And for people who are still in the trenches and doing it, we know those numbers don't really matter, but they do matter because they're counting them. And that's where we're getting our raises, and that's where Press Ganey's coming from, and that's where the budget's coming from. So it does actually matter, but in the grand scheme of taking care of the patient, it doesn't. So I know that's where that thing comes back and forth. But anyway, so I'm sitting in a quality meeting with upper level management, and I'm supposed to be presenting what our ED numbers, and they weren't so good at the time. And I was discussing the BNP draws, and that they were like longer than the time they wanted. And then it led to a fall. We had 2 falls, and I know 1 fall is bad, but to have 2 is really bad,
Mhm.
And my at the time director, she looked at me and she's like, well, why did we have the fall? And I said, well, what's happening is they're like walking the grandmother to the bathroom, and then they're running down to the tube station to get the blood in the tube to get it to the lab, and they're running back, and then
That's fall.
grandma fell. And
Mm-hmm.
she looked at me and she said, very straight face, and maybe she's doing her job, I guess, but she said to me, she goes, so what you're saying is hospital staff is not following hospital policy on not leaving fall risks in the bathroom.
Do you want the fall or do you want the BNP on time? You tell me which one you want, because I can work it out either way you want, right? But one way you ain't gonna get your raises. The other way, okay, is grandma's not gonna fall. Either one, it doesn't matter to us. At the end of the day, we want grandma to be safe, obviously, right? But and when you told me that story, I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And it is true because, I remember us having these, the metrics, and we always had the metrics on the board. And so we didn't, as charge nurses, we weren't necessarily measured on, of course, quality. She measured all the other stuff like the CAUTI, which is, CAUTIs and the BNP times, the troponin times, things of that nature, EKGs, right? But we were measured more so on, door to doc, door to nurse, door to room, door to admission, those things right there. And I remember us
discharged door.
right. I mean, and I remember us having that, us being measured on that, and us having that competitive spirit when it came to that, because you want to be the best, right? And for me, it wasn't necessarily about, it was more so about trying to take care of the patient. And I think for me, it was, I remember when I was very young in nursing, I wasn't even an RN at that time, but there was this young girl who came, she was 20 something years old. She came into a hospital emergency department that was, very close to us. She came into that hospital emergency department and she had gastric bypass. She came in there complaining of chest pain. But because she was in her 20s, at that time, they didn't rush to get you the EKG, right? And so they just didn't do the EKG. And this child, she ended up in the waiting room and she died, right? And so for me, it was, we have got to get those patients out of the waiting room, because the waiting room is the worst, outside of the ER, right? It's the worst place for you to have an emergency department patient. It is the worst place because, number one, they're not taken care of. You can't see them, you can. And so it ended up being something that I was really hardcore on. And I was like, we've got to do this. And, I'm not going to tell my story now about how it really led to me becoming a better leader
Yeah.
because of that. But the deal is that that's what we think about. That is all the things that we think about, because the reality is that the BNP is important. But how about you give me a nursing assistant that can help grandma to the bathroom? How about you have a good culture within the organization so that we can keep staff, so that we can move the needle forward. I mean, and, at the end of the day, that's what we need to do. So listen, I'm here with you on that. So now you decided at some point in time that you wanted to do fun. So how did that transition? How did you transition into entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So at that point, that meeting is when I said, I'm done. I need out of the ED. I can't, I've lost my passion. I need out. And so it's oddly enough, a friend of mine worked for the same vascular surgeon, and she's been asking me for several months to come there. And that night I got off at 11 and sent a resume at 11:45, and I was like, here's my resume. And they were like, we've been waiting for you. It's kind of like the joke. But so I went to work in an outpatient ambulatory surgical center with vascular surgeon, doing all the procedural sedation for these outpatient vascular procedures. And at that time, the pace did slow down, and a couple things happened. One, I was able to identify some health issues and remedy them, and made myself feel better. And I'll talk about that in just a second. And then two, outside of the ER nursing, at this type of nursing, and I know ER nursing is a whole different breed, and that's how I identify. I still identify as an ER nurse, but I actually had time to talk to patients and actually really listen to them a little bit and do a little bit of education, not just the 3 pages of discharge instructions and out the door. Like, really got to talk to people. And so because of those two things, it kind of led me to entrepreneurship. So what happened with me? Well, like I'd mentioned, I struggled with body image and self-esteem, and was gaining weight and couldn't lose it, and ate next to nothing, and ran on a treadmill and any chance I got. So I made a New Year's resolution, and I was going to do something about it. And I hired a health coach, and I did a 21-day food fix, is what she called it. And she basically introduced me to gut health and functional medicine, integrative medicine, which just for some reason doesn't really have a place I think it does more now, but it doesn't really have a place in the hospital. And it was, in this weird way of having been a nurse at that time, 14 years at that point, 15 years at that point, it was like kind of foreign. Like, what, huh? What? Yeah. You want to talk about what? And so in the 21 days, I didn't lose drastic weight, but I lost like 5 pounds or something. But my whole mood was better. The bloating was better, and that's not what this whole podcast is about, but symptoms that I was experiencing were all improving. And why were they improving? Like, we all know broccoli and chicken is good for us. But what I really didn't understand was how bad other foods are for us. Like, we know good food is good, but we don't know how bad inflammation causing foods really are. And so I was introduced to functional medicine and chronic inflammation, and what is chronic inflammation in the body, and how does that lead to our systemic inflammation, or chronic inflammation, but systemic inflammation, and how that leads to chronic disease. All the things I saw in the hospital system, all, from anywhere from ADHD, depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, to IBS, certain cancers, high blood pressure, kidney disease, can all be linked back to inflammation in the body. So in that 21 days, I was kind of hooked. And I've always been that kind of person, meaning like once I'm like onto something, I want to know about it. That's how I was in nursing school. I came into nursing school and it was like, okay, this girl's got to know it all. It's just my nature. I just want to know. So I just started reading, getting books and understanding things. And then and then I was feeling good. I'd lost weight, skin looked good, had energy, was happy. Maybe that was because I was out of the hospital too, but my food and movement definitely had something to do with it. So anybody who would listen, because everybody was like, what are you doing? You look so good. You look great. What are you doing? So anybody who would listen, I started telling them what I was doing. And then three very good friends at Christmas time, we were out to dinner and they were like, you should really just start a business. Like, you should do this. You should do. And I was like, what do you mean? I got to start a business? Because, I'm still working for the vascular surgeon full time at this point. And then that was the following Christmas after, my big New Year's resolution. So that January, I enrolled in a nutrition coach certification and said, you know what? I am going to do this for a business. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, that it was destiny that I met Dr. V in that Facebook group. I was destiny that another nurse came to work for the vascular surgeon, and she had a lot of the same beliefs that I have about movement and food. And she's like, I kind of dabble on the side. I just hired a business coach, and I think she'd be great for you. And so she introduced us, and this woman basically helped me take all this and kind of coordinate it into what now is a 12-week program, my signature program, which now has evolved. And I have two. I have a level 1 program, a level 2 program. I have like a 28-day jumpstart program for those people who are wondering, do I want to invest in this? I'm not sure about this. And yeah, here we are. Here we are. That's where we are now.
I love it. I love it. And so, Abbey, so you started your business. And first of all, I want to give some shout out to your 3 friends, okay? Because, sometimes we have those friends that are not necessarily good for us. But I want to give a shout out to them for saying, believing in you, because sometimes we have to have someone else believe in us before we can believe in it ourselves. So shout out to them. But, when you started talking about, sick care and healthcare, and you start talking about how you felt, one thing, now I went to 4 different schools when I was doing my nursing. I was an LPN. I got my LPN and my ADN at the same school. And then I went to get my BS at another school, my master's at another school, and my doctorate at another school. So out of all 4 of those schools, I had 1 nutrition class the entire time. And the reality is that food heals, And the problem is that we in America, precious as we are, we do more of trying to put a Band-Aid, because people are like, well, I just take a pill for it. Well, you're going to take a pill for it, but you may have a side effect from that pill. And then not just side effect from that pill, but side effect from the disease processes that you will have as a result of that pill. And so it's important for you to be able to eat healthier and do healthier things. And that's what, in my opinion, functional medicine gears you towards, to not just depend on a pill to do whatever you need to have done, but to really pour back into your body in a very healthy way. And I tell the story about, it was a COO. He probably is hating me right now. If he ever sees this, he's gonna be like, this lady. But it was true, right? So I was the readmissions manager at this hospital, and we were there. And I said, well, we're gonna have to work on the front end in order to, the back end, in order to ensure that the patient does not, come back, right? Because you have to incur those 30-day readmission penalties. But then we need to work on the front end in order to make, in order to ensure that the patient is healthy, right? So we've got to go out into the community, and we've got to start talking about food and how food heals and things of that nature. And he was like, well, we don't want to stop patients from coming in the hospital. And when he said that, like, I knew it in my head, right? But when you say it to me, then it makes it real. And I was like, well, okay, well, I hear you, sir. And then there was this patient that kept coming in, and she was she was sick as a dog, right? She was literally coming in time after time after time again. But she was one of those patients that knew what she could do, right? So she would order things that were not necessarily good for her, but because of patient satisfaction, then they would take her those things when her problem was you can't have those things. And I remember going down to the kitchen and saying, let's change this. And so they started ordering those supplies. And I remember him coming in there and changing everything back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I can't, you know, what you're not going to do is tie my hands. Okay.
Right.
When because I'm held to these scores and I'm held to these metrics, and you're not letting me do the things that I need to do in order to affect those metrics. No, we ain't gonna do that right now.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, you went on the 21 day fast. Tell me a little bit about what it has done for you outside of there. Like, what was that mind shift? How did that work for you?
Yeah. So that 21 day fix. So this is what I really try to teach my own clients now, because there's such a connection. The gut brain axis, it's a two-way street. And so in the 21 days of removing processed and inflammation causing foods and really focusing on my gut health, a lot of people probably have heard of, the 4 R's: you remove, you replace, you restore. And you can only do so much in 21 days. That's why you have to continue afterwards. But that's a good basis to start. But after that, at that 21 days, I did have this mindset, this clarity. And that's actually one of the things a lot of my clients talk about. And they can experience it as early as 7 to 10 days. The brain fog sort of starts to lift. So, and this is something that I teach as well and encourage with my clients. Once that brain fog is sort of gone and the energy levels sort of come up, and then that's how I have it strategically placed in my 12-week program. It's exactly based on how I did all of this in my own life. But once the brain fog is gone, the energy levels come up, then you can really kind of focus in a little bit and do the mindset work that you just talked about. What was that mindset shift? Because how do you everybody's done diets and they've done them and they've worked, and then they go back to the thing that they did. So it's the mindset shift that makes things sustainable and makes it so that you continue to do this. And it's not, you don't ever have dessert. It's not that you don't ever eat sugar. It's not that you don't have a cocktail. It's just truly understanding what's happening in your body. And now having this clarity in your brain, and you can look at things a little bit differently. And I think the big thing about understanding not only functional medicine, and then the more I read and the more I learned, and I really dove back into nutrition and the metabolic functions. And that's also what I teach in the program. And I'll talk about why I decided to do that in a second. But I really think that when you, I guess I'll talk about it now, but when you really understand like what's happening in your body, because patients came to the triage all the time with their WebMD printout paperwork. And they like, this is what I think I have. And that was kind of my basis of like, okay, people want to know what's happening. So that is, and I want to know, I wanted to learn. So I think I answered your question in a long-about way, but it was definitely a mindset shift. And I was able to identify negative patterns in my life that I maybe for a long time walked around with blinders on, because nobody wants to address things that make you feel uncomfortable. And a lot of women and men, but I only work with women. When we get uncomfortable, we do have some poor eating habits, and addressing why we're uncomfortable is how we change the eating habit. Not just I'm on a diet and I'm going to do chicken and broccoli. And I pick on chicken and broccoli all the time because I know everybody eats that when they're dieting, but it's more than chicken and broccoli. Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good because, it does, when you think about it, if your brain shuts down, like that is what that's your operating system, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And so it is a mindset shift. And I really, as you talk about, how the mindset shift, and it helps because you feel better. I tell people all the time, I don't like, literally, I remember people coming in with their, family members, and I'm not judging. I'm just saying what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, just fact. Yeah.
But they were coming in with their family members, and they would be contracted, and they would be, bedridden and things of that nature. And they were like, this is great. And they would have all these bed sores. And I was like, I've kept them alive for this long. I don't want quality. I don't want quantity of life. I want quality life, right? I want to make sure that I have the ability to enjoy life as that. And I was like, I probably don't want no feeding tube because I like to eat. So it's probably not going to be a good thing to do that for me. You know what I'm saying? And so those were the things. So I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing. And I'm so glad that you're on the other side of medicine, really, really changing kind of how the game is played, so that we can cure some of the disparities that are in healthcare for sure. Because, and I tell people all the time this, I say, because people, I have had, the haters come in and they're like, you're taking nurses from the bedside. No, we're helping nurses. We're helping nurses because we can't do it within the system, right? We just can't. And some people may have those systems where they're, out in the community and they're doing the thing, but, some people just don't. And when you don't, you have to be very intuitive, and you have to ensure that you are, you do what you do. So I love it. So we have some rapid fire questions for you at the end. Okay. So you ready?
Okay. I guess so. Yeah. Go for it.
What is the most rewarding thing about nursing?
Oh my goodness. Pre or post, or like when I left?
However you want to do it.
Okay. Gosh. Okay. Because I do feel like they're two worlds. So because I'm living in this post-hospital world, I guess I'll go with that. My 12-week ending calls, when I do my calls with clients, and I happened to have one last night. We filmed it, and and this is over 9 months, but 47 pounds lost, 2 dress sizes down. She reversed her pre-diabetes. Her numbers are all fine, and her cholesterol numbers are where they're supposed to be. And like having, that validation of being this solo entrepreneur and taking this crazy risk of, oh my God, I just left security.
What you think is security, because it ain't. But anyway, right. Go ahead.
Yeah. The only thing it is a paycheck. That's the only. That's
it. The only thing and they can take that away at the drop of a dime. Be very clear on that. I tell people that all the time. You think that's secure? That ain't secure.
Yes, but absolutely right. But yeah, those calls at the end of the 12 weeks, and it's. And then the mindset stuff too, because I always say, okay, what are your non-scale victories? And it's, I love my body again. I love looking in the mirror. I feel good. I have energy. I pick up my grandchildren. I can carry my grandchildren because their arthritic hands are better because of the inflammation. And so I've got like 50 some of those stories now under my belt. So that's the best thing about nursing. Yeah.
I love that. And I tell, because I have one client, and I told her, I said, as soon she came in the program, and about 6 weeks after the program, she turned her business into a 6-figure business. And I tell her all the time, I said, it was your story. It was how you moved, and the things that I taught you and what you did. I said, it was then that I knew, okay, we own to something. And it was, because sometimes you don't think that you're gonna. It's a complete faith walk now. It's a complete faith walk. And so once she did that, I was like, oh, we're in the business. Oh, we're good now. We're good. And so, multiple times over, I love it. So what is the common misconceptions about nursing?
Okay, so I might be jaded having been in the ER. I think, like, because the ER is crazy. It is that we ER nurses are mean and we don't care. And that is a misconception. And I want to clear it. We can't always be lovey-dovey, because if you did, you would be eaten alive, because I've cried in Ambo. Oh my God, I'm thinking about the kids right now. Like I've cried at work when the mom who ran over her own kid in the driveway, where a 17-year-old hung himself and his mother found him. You know, the little old man whose wife refused to leave the room after, we had called the code for like 4 hours. Like and it's all like coming back, PTSD. But if you don't have that tough shield up, it will eat you alive. So you have to have that tough shield up. So we're not mean people. We are good, loving, fun group of people.
Just trying to guard it. And it is so true, because it is the ups and the downs. I didn't realize it at the time, right? But there's a whole lot of ups and downs. Like, we can go from a kid being coded to a kid running around the room having a good old time and just in there for an earache. You know what I'm saying? And so it's such a disparity sometimes of how we have to transition our emotions, and that can be incredibly hard. And you're right, people don't really understand that. So thank you for saying that. That's really good. So what are you reading now?
What am I reading? So I'm kind of going back. I guess I'm rereading. I actually have it right here. Dr. Josh Axe, Eat Dirt. And I've read this before. I reference it all the time. And then Dr. Depko Chopra. That's kind of for myself right now. I'm doing another 21-day. Imagine that, a 21-day meditation challenge. Just as an entrepreneur, I have all these great ideas, and sometimes I need to ground myself and prioritize and finish one project, then move on to the next. So that's what I'm doing right now.
I love it. It's definitely a thing. I tell people all the time, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that you have to make sure of is that you settle. Like, you settle yourself before you pour into yourself in the morning, before you go out and pour into everybody else. Because if you don't, you're going to be empty. And, I wake up, I just tell, there's nothing I tell people all the time, that DNP didn't do anything for me. It didn't make me a better nurse, but it did create discipline within my life. And so that discipline has carried over into entrepreneurship. Now, who is a leader, living or dead, that you want to have a conversation with?
Oh, that's a good question. That's almost a tough question. Leader, living or dead, that I'd like to have a conversation with. Gloria Stanton.
Okay. And why?
I just remember that was actually, so it was my bachelor's degree. And I went to WVU, go Mountaineers. But I took an upper level history class, and it was women's history. And, I was an undergrad, so it was completely different than the 300 kids in the classroom. We were talking like 15 people, and I don't know. I was really changed in that class. And I saw really all of the women's leaders at that time. So I don't know, just it's interesting. And it's not really the time or the place, but I feel like in some ways women, and like the whole "we can do it all" has really sort of done us a little bit of a disservice, because we can do it all. We can do it all, but we're not supposed to do it all.
Exactly.
And somewhere along the line, women got the message that asking for help or needing help or that's not really the platform for that conversation, but I feel like that's where that rushing women syndrome comes from, myself included. That go. I got to show everybody I'm perfect at this, and I'm a great nurse, and I'm a great mom, and and everything has to be, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be.
People all the time. It was, we've recently had some things that went on in our family, and so my niece, you know, she felt like that there were going to be people that were going to come over here to my house and they were going to want to eat, and I was like, listen, no folks know I don't cook. Don't be bringing no plates over here, okay? Because they're gonna be sadly disappointed. They're gonna see the plates and they're gonna not see the food, because that's not what I do, okay?
Yeah.
I am an entrepreneur, okay? I do that well. I'm not gonna cook. I'm not gonna cook. We got housekeepers coming over here. Listen. I know what my highest income producing activity is, and it is not cooking, okay? So, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, okay. I guess I'm like on this women's kick. Maybe it's Mother's Day weekend, or when we're recording, it's Mother's Day weekend. But I like Steel Magnolias and Terms of Endearment. I don't know. I'm a sucker for all of them. I really am. I cry every single time.
Every single time. I mean, I don't know what hold Steel Magnolias has on me, but every time it never fails.
Yes.
I got you. I got you. Now, how do you define success?
I have to admit I'm struggling with that. And that's why I surround myself with leaders. I have my own mentors. I've been in my own coaching circles. And I'm working on that. And it's evolving, I will say. Because success does evolve.
Right.
So I would say an old definition was me being able to leave the bedside, which is great. And I'm at a point now. And again, I think like because I met you and I'm here and lots of good things are happening, I really feel like I'm about to like level up, because I've been really creating a new vision that I'm comfortable saying. Because that's the other thing. Other nurses, women, we're afraid to say what we want, and because people might think something, or you're crazy for wanting to quit your job and start this business that nobody may sign up for. Because I had people tell me that. So I don't really have a whole answer for you for that. It's evolved, but I see it coming. And
I love it. It's interesting to me how people will say things like that to you, because, I don't know, maybe I just didn't have that mentality. Like, people ain't come to me and say don't mess like that to me. They every now and then they would leave little comments on Facebook, the keyboard warriors, right? But they ain't never come to my face and say nothing, because it was not accepted. But I think that, once you get to a point where you don't care what other people think, let me tell you something. I got there I don't know, it's something about 40. As soon as I turned 40, it was game over. I don't care what you think. At the end of the day, I have a circle of friends that are around me that really, really ground me, that I know they care about me, that I know that they care about my story. And not that I don't care about what the masses think, but at the end of the day, we can't please everyone and actually do what we're designed our purpose to do, right? And so I have to keep those people out of my, I can't even keep them in my mind. So I will, if they're having a negative, I'll look at their timeline and their timeline is negative, I will either unfriend or unfollow, 1 of the 2, or block, 1 of the 3. I mean, it just depends, right? And it's because the purpose is way too important for them, for whatever they think. So I love it. I love, love, love. You tell them people, next time they talk to you, you tell them to call me. Give them my number, my real number. Okay. Now tell me where people can find you.
Yeah. So I mainly on Facebook. So you can just find me, Abbey Austin, find me, AUSTIN, my public profile. I also have A2 Health and Wellness has its own business page. Once you find me, you can access a couple resources that I have. I have a 7-day guide to decrease bloating and increase energy. And I've got meal templates in there, all anti-inflammatory. And then I also have a guide for how to exercise in perimenopause. I kind of alluded to that earlier, that life changes and cardio is not always the best thing. And yes, we need weights, but sometimes we need to do a couple other things first. So you can access those resources. I have a free Facebook group that you can join, A2 Health and Wellness Coaching. I go live in there once a week. I've been not so good about it lately. Life's been a little busy, but I've got recipes, tips, tricks, lots of pre-recorded trainings in there. And then I have a website. Of course, I'm not paying Google a lot of money, so you might not find me, but it's www.a2healthwellness.com. But it'll come up, and you can connect with me there. You can get those resources, and you can hear more of my story and see pictures of my kiddos. I got kiddos out there, so yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So it has been an absolute pleasure, Abbey, to have you here. Just to hear your story and to hear how you are impacting, many, many, many people. I'm just incredibly thankful and grateful for your work, because it is incredibly important. It is I know it. I see it all the time. And in order for us to be very intentional about, trying to alleviate the burden that is on healthcare, we're going to have more people like you in the world. So thank you for your work. Now we are getting ready to have our next masterclass. It's going to be amazing. So I encourage you to go over to vpnursing.com, sign up for the masterclass. I also, again, I want to remind you, if you're on Facebook, like, share, comment. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and leave us a message. And then if you're on Apple, I encourage you to write a review and like and share, however you need to do that. And I just thank you for being here. You're absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
You have a phenomenal rest of your day.
Yes. Thank you very